You want to form a dynasty in the modern NFL?
The Kansas City Chiefs, back-to-back champion.
They have their dynasty.
You want to avoid long-term mediocrity? How about we dive into the 5 NFL teams whose Super Bowl windows are wide open and 5 whose windows have been slammed shut. Wide open, Kansas City Chiefs. May as well get the obvious out of the way early. The Chiefs have the best football player on the planet in Patrick Mahomes for starters, and the league's best head coach, none other than Mr. Andy Reid. And of course, the best front office led by Brett Veach, one that just keeps bringing in new star power to replace whichever marquee players depart for greener pastures. The Chiefs defeated the San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl 58, becoming the first team to win consecutive Lombardi trophies since the 2003 and 2004 New England Patriots. With 3 titles in 5 years, the Chiefs also cemented themselves as a dynasty. Mahomes got it done with a mediocre wide receiving core that committed way too many costly drops, penalties, and fumbles during the regular season. I mean, almost nobody gave KC a chance heading into the postseason, yet they muscled their way past the mighty Buffalo Bills, top-seeded Baltimore Ravens, and star-studded 49ers in order to claim football's ultimate prize. The Chiefs are loaded on both sides of the ball, but the point is, they'll always be a Super Bowl contender as long as they have Mahomes and Reid. Look no further than 3 straight AFC title game appearances, 4 conference banners, and 3 Lombardi trophies. Slammed shut, Buffalo Bills. How many more chances does this core need to break through? Advancing to the 2020 AFC Championship game was supposed to serve as the first big step forward for this group, not as their peak. Ever since that 2020 AFC title game loss to Kansas City, the Bills have been eliminated in the divisional round 3 straight years. The 13-second game and wide right 2 especially stand out as evidence that Sean McDermott's group is, well, full of chokers. Allen is the only bona fide superstar under the age of 30. With limited cap space, the Bills really aren't in a position to add more game changers to help them get over the top. The Bills are 0-3 against Mahomes in the playoffs. Joe Burrow has proven to be a way more clutch playoff performer than Allen. The Miami Dolphins, Houston Texans, and Cleveland Browns aren't going away in the AFC either. These last 3 years marked Buffalo's best chance to bring the franchise its first Super Bowl. The time to win with this group has passed, and the sooner the Bills decide to undergo a massive roster overhaul, the better. Wide open, Detroit Lions. In year 3 of the Dan Campbell-Brad Holmes era, all the Lions did was 1. Win their first division title in 30 years, 2. Win their first playoff game since 1991, and 3. Reach their first NFC Championship game since 1991. Yeah, make no mistake, the Lions did choke big time in the NFC Championship game against the 49ers when they coughed up a 17-point lead. But if you were to tell Lions fans 2 years ago that they were this close to the franchise's first Super Bowl appearance, I think they'd be happy to take it. Consider that the Lions have a QB squarely in his prime in Jared Goff. The Frank Ragnow, Taylor Decker, and Penei Sewell-led offense is still going to remain a menacing group for several more years. Heck, Sewell hasn't even hit his peak yet. Offensive weapons Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, and Jahmyr Gibbs are just growing into superstars now, and ditto for edge rusher Aiden Hutchinson, linebacker Jack Campbell, and do-it-all defensive back Brian Branch. You throw all of this all-world talent in with Campbell's savvy coaching and Holmes' mastery of evaluating talent, and you have a team that's built to win aplenty over the next half-decade. Right now, only the 49ers look more dangerous than the Lions in the NFC. And as we saw this past season, Detroit is more than capable of defeating the superior, albeit awfully vulnerable 49ers. There's no guarantees in football, but it genuinely only feels like a matter of time until this Lions core brings Motown its first Super Bowl championship. Slammed shut, Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings overachieved tremendously in 2022 with a 13-win season that ended with a stunning wildcard round loss to the New York Giants. Rather than fix up a shaky O-line and an atrocious defense, the Vikings doubled down with the same core and expected better results in 2024. Releasing 4-time Pro Bowler Dalvin Cook in a cap-saving move was a bit of a head-scratcher, and sure enough, the Vikings' once-elite ground game sunk to one of football's worst, with Alexander Mattison failing to replace Cook's explosiveness. And even before Kirk Cousins suffered a season-ending Achilles tear, the Vikings are merely a fringe playoff team at 4-4. The fact that they finished 3-6 without Captain Kirk further displayed the Vikings' need for a full-scale rebuild. There just aren't enough difference makers on this team outside of Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson. The Detroit Lions emerged as the new kings of the NFC North in 2023. The Green Bay Packers made the playoffs in year 1 of the Jordan Love era. The Chicago Bears, well, they're about to add Caleb Williams to their young roster already loaded with talent. And the Vikings are where exactly? stuck in purgatory as they've been with Cousins since 2018. They kept Cousins for way too long when it was clear early on that he was not a big game performer. Until they finally commit to a tear-it-all-down rebuild, these Vikings won't be coming anywhere close to a Super Bowl, even with the league's best wide receiver in JJ. Wide open, Houston Texans. When you make it to the divisional round with a rookie quarterback and a first-year head coach, you know you're in good hands long-term. CJ Stroud put together an MVP-caliber year in his first NFL season. D'Amico Ryans reminded plenty of teams just how silly they were for not taking him on as their new head coach when they had the chance. Most Super Bowl contenders have at least 4 franchise stars to keep them in contention. For the Texans, we count Stroud, wide receiver Nico Collins, edge rusher Will Anderson Jr., and cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. Then you throw in other guys like Tank Dell, Jalen Petrie, Damian Pierce, and Laramie Tunsil. Ooh, now you got a core loaded with star power and depth, 2 necessities to win in today's league. And with mountains of cap space, nobody said that GM Nick Caserio can't add more 5-star talents to this team during their competitive window. The bottom line is that with their core 4 and a top-tier head coach, the Texans' championship window just opened up. Little did we know, it was pried open the day that Stroud took to the field in his NFL debut. That Deshaun Watson trade sure turned into an all-time win for the Texans, huh? Slammed shut, New Orleans Saints. The Saints front office has put themselves in the worst possible situation. You know, not being good enough to compete for a Super Bowl, but not exactly bad enough to tank and collect franchise-changing top 10 draft picks. Ever since Drew Brees' retirement in 2021, the Saints have gone 25-26. 0 playoff appearances in that span. The foolish structuring of Derek Carr's contract means that the Saints are stuck with Mr. Barely Above Average for at least 2 more years. Alvin Kamara is not getting any younger, Cameron Jordan and Demario Davis are in their mid-30s, and superstar corner Marshawn Lattimore has not been able to stay healthy. The Saints may play in football's worst division, but they are miles behind the top dogs in the NFC like the Lions, 49ers, Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, and Green Bay Packers. Their ceiling remains 10 wins and a playoff berth. And that's not going to change unless ownership signs off on a full-scale rebuild. Oh well, there'll always be 2009. Wide open, Baltimore Ravens. We know, Lamar Jackson is 2-4 in the postseason and has a bad habit of regressing considerably during the postseason. But hey, John Elway, Peyton Manning, and Matthew Stafford all had to wait a while to break through as Super Bowl champs. Who's to say Lamar can't follow a similar path? And you know, we've said it many times before, the Ravens draft better than anybody else. They will always stockpile difference makers around Jackson. Currently speaking, we got Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, Tyler Linderbaum, Marlon Humphrey, and Kyle Hamilton, just name a couple. Since John Harbaugh teamed up with Jackson, the Ravens have consistently fielded a top 10 offense and defense. And of course, they only have the best kicker of all time in Justin Tucker, so you know that's not a problem with big games on the line. With 2 MVP awards under his belt, we know what Jackson can do. Their championship window is wide open. No team is better suited to challenge Mahomes in Kansas City over the next half-decade or so than these Ravens. Slammed shut, New York Jets. With all due respect to 4-time league MVP Aaron Rodgers, something tells us that a 40-year-old coming off a season-ending Achilles tear will not single-handedly save the day for the Jets. It's not a knock against Rodgers or anything, but more a knock against the annual circus show that transpires in Gotham. Like, what? Rodgers is gonna single-handedly fix up the Jets' atrocious offensive line? Someone other than Garrett Wilson will step up and actually aid the passing game? Robert Saleh, he of 3 straight losing seasons as a head coach, is suddenly going to enter the Andy Reid, John Harbaugh, Sean McDermott stratosphere of elite AFC coaches. No, and no. Not to mention that the Jets have to deal with the Dolphins and Bills in the AFC East. Not to mention the Chiefs, Ravens, Bengals, Browns, and Texas in the AFC. Rodgers' arm could get the Jets into the playoffs, but they're not built to outlast the true heavyweights of the AFC. And because Rodgers is now in his 40s, well, that puts the Jets on a very, very short leash to win. I'm sorry, Jets fans, but a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers is not going to save the day now. Wide open, San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Shanahan's 49ers are perilously entering 90s Bills territory. No, they haven't lost 4 straight Super Bowls, but they have lost 2 big games and 2 NFC championships. That's kinda close enough in the modern era. But like, how much longer can a team as deep and star-studded as the 49ers fall short? Especially with the Lions and maybe the Packers serving as the only teams who could realistically challenge them in the NFC long term. Brock Purdy is still on a rookie contract. Despite his age, Trent Williams is still the golden standard of offensive linemen. George Kittle Kittle and Christian McCaffrey are still in their primes. Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk are both top 20 receivers when they're healthy. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Talanoa Hufanga, they're all in their mid-20s and have plenty of prime years left in them. And veteran defensive tackle Javon Hargrave is aging like a fine wine, so yeah, he ain't going anywhere. And, as much as Shanahan gets a lot of hate, he is still a top 5 coach in this league, and John Lynch has done a masterful job building this team into a superpower alongside Shanahan, committing far more home runs than strikeouts when it comes to blockbuster moves. 49ers are a few bounces away from having multiple Super Bowl titles in the Shanahan era. They're clearly capable of competing with Mahomes' Chiefs. But if they get to a Super Bowl and don't have to meet with Kansas City in the big game for once, then they'll have a clear-cut path to the franchise's long-awaited 6th Super Bowl trophy, an elite GM head coaching tandem, and a star-studded roster loaded with game changers across the board. Yeah, the 49ers window remains as wide open as ever. Slammed shut, Dallas Cowboys. 3 straight 12-win seasons, 3 straight MVP-like years from Dak Prescott, 3 straight years of finishing with a top 4 scoring offense and a top 7 scoring defense. The results? 1 playoff win in that period. Yeah, the 2023 Cowboys had a clear-cut path to the NFC Championship game. 2 home wins, and they would be in the Final Four for the first time since the 1995 season. But of course, they blew that by getting crushed by Jordan Love and the 7th-seeded Packers. And as Jerry Jones has shown, he just only cares about regular season results. That means keeping Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott forever, which means that this team's ceiling will always be a divisional round appearance. These Cowboys choke every year. Jones does nothing about it. Rinse and repeat. Who are we to think that the Cowboys Super Bowl window is still somehow open? I mean, it's gonna remain slammed shut as long as Jones prioritizes regular season victories over Super Bowls. But which other NFL teams have Super Bowl windows that are wide open? And which windows have already been slammed shut? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.